It's it's great to have you on here. This is a show I put together that a lot of times focuses a lot on singers and metal prog singers and stuff. And of course, you've recorded so many of the best prog and metal singers, but also I really like your voice a lot too myself. I feel like you are underrated in that respect too. So I wanted to have you on here and kind of talk a little bit about both those things. And of course, first and foremost, we got to talk about the new album, Transitus,
Of course, of
which
course.
I have been listening to and just am really digging. It has this great like horror influenced sound and
Oh,
everything.
yes. Oh, yes.
The
Yeah, yeah.
soundtrack aspects I love and everything. So I heard that this apparently started out as an idea for a film. Is that correct?
It still is. Yeah, it
Oh, it
still
still
is.
is. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah,
did
well, I wrote it as a sound check. So with each passage in the music, I know exactly what should happen in the movie. So yeah, for the first 2 years, it wasn't an Ayreon album. It was a soundtrack for a movie. But then, of course, the whole Corona thing started, and I was like, yeah, can we get funding for this now? Can we film with all the guidelines and shit like that? So I was like, let's just release it. So I played all the stuff to the record company, and I showed them the clips and this and the comic book and everything, and they said, "Hey, sounds like an Arion to us." And I had to get used to the idea first, because Arion is more like a rock opera, and this is more like a musical. But I was like, "Hey, man, they call us progressive. Our genre is progressive, so better be progressive and try something new." So.
Yeah, and did the music come to you any differently with it being a film idea first? I know you have usually said you come up with the music before the story. So
Right.
was it any
Right.
different this time?
Yeah, yeah. It was very different because, like you say, usually I start with the music. I have no idea even what project it's going to be, and then I just start, and then the music inspires me to come up with a story. But this time I started with a story, which was weird, and also picking the singers. Usually I just take voices I like, but this time it was like, okay, it would be cool if the singer on the album actually would also be the singer in the movie.
Hmm.
So I was looking for actors, and I was looking for people who are charismatic, who look good and who look the part and shit like that. So that was really a different way of working. Yeah, a bit more difficult.
Awesome. And was it so did the lyrics come as well with that, or did you write it kind of like a script first? And how did that setup go?
As I went along, it was baby steps. I just started with the okay, sci-fi. Sci-fi movie costs 50 to 100 million pounds. You know,
Yeah, it's
so
quite
I cannot
expensive.
do sci-fi with all the effects and stuff. So I thought maybe a ghost story, and a ghost story, of course, is cool in the Gothic area in the 19th century. So basically, that's all I had. I want to do a ghost story. I want to do sort of like a love story, like a forbidden love story between a rich man's son and the servant. And I went from there. And then I just picked the singers. And as I was picking the singers, I was actually changing the story,
Hmm.
which is funny. Like, okay, I have this singer, so I gotta find a cool part for him or for her.
Yeah, and it was, and it's that's an exciting thing about this album too. Is there's a lot of different kinds of singers, different kinds of approaches than we've heard
Oh
in the
yes, yeah,
past. Like hearing
right.
Johanna, is it Johanna James? How do you pronounce his name? I'm not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from
Johan, yeah, Johan.
because I love his work with Threshold. I didn't realize he
He's
was such a good
amazing. He's
singer.
amazing film. Well, I didn't either.
Hmm.
I saw him with. I went to see Damien, and I saw him drumming. Instead of looking at Damien, I was looking at him all evening, like holy shit.
Oh yeah.
And then I heard he was playing with his solo band. So I thought, well, let's go there. And then he was actually singing in this band. It's called Curb Grinder. It was a three-piece band, and he was singing, and it sounded cool too. So when I was looking for this father of Abby or father of Cammy Gilbert, I immediately thought of him like, oh, he would be perfect for that. And of course, Johan himself was like, okay, you want me to drum? No, I want you to sing. Nah, nah. He said, I'm not a singer, man. You don't want me. I said, yes, I do. And he was really insecure, and he came to my studio and he said, are you sure? And I said, just go for it and go for it. And I'm good at getting the best out of singers. It's It's one of my talents. I don't have many talents, but that's one of them. And yeah, I hear a voice and I know what can be done with it. So after a day's work, he went to the photo studio with Laurie to take some photos. And while he was away, I quickly edited it, and made it sound good with some reverb and stuff like that. And he came back and I played it. He said, "This is not me." While I was doing photos, you quickly recorded another singer. So he was as happy with the result as I was. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy that have a voice like he does, and then say he's not as much of a singer. You listen back, it's like,
And
what?
not having done more with it.
Hmm.
I mean, he must be my age right now, and I'm just like, how you should have been like up there when you were 20. And but that's yeah, maybe self-confidence. Maybe he didn't realize how good a singer he is. So
Yeah, could be. And I also really like, as you say, having Cammy on the album is a
yeah,
great thing
yeah.
too. And having her as sort of one of the main characters. Did that? I know that it said originally. I was checking some other interviews and things, and it sounds like originally Simone was the idea for the lead. Where in the process did that change?
When I heard Cammy,
Yeah.
really, it was going to be Tommy and Simone, two beautiful people. They were going to be my main characters, and so yeah, the rich man's son and the servant. Then I think it was a journalist who told me about Ode to Slumber, and they said that they really like your music. And maybe he played me something, and I don't remember. But at a certain point, I'm subscribed to a lot of magazines, and they come with cover mount CDs, like this one,
Hmm.
Prog magazine, and and I always play them. I put them on my phone, and then I go walking, and then I listen to them without knowing who the band is, because then you can listen objectively. And I heard, I think it was Nights in White Satin. I was like, what a voice, what a voice. I went to YouTube and then I saw, hey, that's Oceans of Slumber. That's the band this journalist was talking about. And I love the singer, so I immediately contacted her, and she was, yeah, of course I'll do it, and we love your music, and so it was easy to convince her. And then at some point, I was like, well, if she would be the main part, then it would be like even more of a forbidden relationship, especially in the 19th century, between the rich man's son and the dark servant. That would make the story so much more interesting. And
Yeah.
of course, I asked Cami about it first, like, are you okay with that, or have you? She said, yeah, of course, man. That she totally agreed that it makes the story even more gripping, and so that's how that went.
Awesome. And did she record in the studio with you as well?
Luckily, yeah, yeah, she came all the way over from Texas together with Dubber, the drummer of Ocean of Slumber, who is her friend, and great people, such nice people. We had a couple of nice days here, and it was just great recording with her because she's just standing next to me, and we're just grabbing the guitar, try this, oh yeah, yeah, try this, and it's yeah, there was a lot of chemistry going on, and that's how you get the best results.
Yeah, because I recall that on the source, I think it was you. I remember you saying in the making of video that came with that a lot of the singers on that album weren't able to record in person, which is kind of unusual for an Ayreon album.
Yes.
And for
Yeah.
this time, did pretty much everyone show up in person, or were there some who didn't? Or
Well, Tommy, the first time I recorded Tommy was in my studio with Theory of Everything. The source, he couldn't do it, so he did it himself, and it was so good.
yeah,
It was so good, so I knew I could trust Tommy, and he could do it while his voice was optimal and while he felt like it, and he could work on it for days. He didn't have to do everything in one afternoon. So he said, I'll do it at home, and I completely trusted him to do it. So he did it at home. And of course, I mean, Dee Snider is not going to fly over from New York for one track,
right.
So he recorded his vocals in the studio in New York, and I mean, man, the job he did,
Oh yeah.
and he actually sent me the whole session, so all his vocals that he did, so also like mistakes and stuff, but there were no mistakes.
Yeah.
It was like he sang the track 6 times and it was 6 times perfect. So it was like a luxury position for me, it was hard to pick the best tracks, because they all sounded good. So yeah. So I think those were and of course Mike Mills, because he's in Australia and it's just one song.
Yeah.
and he's doing all these vocal layers, and I trust him 100. He's my hero, and I trust him 100%, and he did it at home too. But all the others came to my studio.
Oh, cool. I know that I was just so excited after hearing that D. Snyder track because it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. But is his performances? He just gets so into it, and it's also he's such a different kind of singer as well to be on an Ayreon album.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Was he familiar with your work before when you had talked to him about it? How did
I
getting him
don't
go?
know. I don't know because it all was all went via his manager. So
Hmm.
these people are big names, and they're very hard to reach. And of course they have filters, and their manager filters that. So I got the contact of his manager from Tobias from Avantasia. We help each other a lot. I got him Jeff Tate, he gets me D Schneider, and no, it's just with the manager. I talk a lot with him. Then you negotiate a price, and then he offers it to D, and then either D says I hate it or or I like it. And in my case, luckily he loved it. He loved the part, and although it's of course he was he's known for his we're not going to take it and stuff like that, and now he's on the other side, he's the father who is overbearing.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of cool to have him play that part, and I was hoping that he would do it, that he wouldn't be like, hey man, I'm not that kind of guy, but he's an actor, so he knows what to do.
Yeah, he's got that theatrical side that fits just perfectly with Arion, and of course that you can hear
Right.
a bit of that Alice Cooper influence, but also he has that range, that high range, and everything. It's a very
It's yeah,
unique
it's
sound.
of course it's more powerful than Alice Cooper.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
At least than Alice Cooper is now. I mean, Alice
Mm.
Cooper in his early days was amazing. Huh?
Oh, for sure.
If
Yeah.
you hear like Love It to Death or all those first few albums, it's like holy shit,
Yeah.
a lot of power. But I mean, Alice must be 70 now,
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have to say, Dee Snider, I think he's 65 now. But most singers start losing it at 50. But this guy's only getting better. I don't know how he does it, and also if you see him on stage, he's so powerful still. So yeah, that was couldn't have been better for that song.
He's a crazy talent on the mic for sure. And
Oh yeah,
for actually, you know what it made me think of a little bit also is of course the track "Loser" from the Human Equation album, just because it's also we have this
right,
this
right.
father character who has the one song really
Yeah, yeah,
shows up
yeah,
like
yeah.
what Mike Baker did.
And very Alice Cooper.
Yeah, and also with that Alice
Because Mike
Cooper.
Baker and me were huge Alice Cooper fans. Each
Mm.
mail we sent, we had to end with the Alice Cooper quote. So
Awesome,
so
yeah.
when I wrote Loser especially for Mike, because I wanted him on the album, and I didn't have a song for him, so I thought let's do an Alice Cooper kind of track, and so that's how Loser got on that album.
Oh, awesome. Was that a kind of inspiration to do the track with D on this one, or just kind of turn out that way?
I'm not sure if I thought about it. No, I just
Hmm.
needed like a father, like I needed a character, because it's just one track. And of course, I was seeing the movie in my head, and the moment this father enters the scene, it has to be, he has to be so charismatic that he totally eats up the whole scene, and
Oh, for
so
sure.
I made
Yeah.
a little list, and of course, Alice Cooper was in that list. I think Bob Halford was in that list. He could have done it too. Jack Black, I think, was in the list.
Ah,
I
wow.
always, I always make a list because you never know if you get the singer. It's very hard to reach these people and to negotiate, and sometimes you're working on a singer for half a year, and then in the end it doesn't work out, and then you have to start all over again. So I always start contacting like five singers for a part.
That
That's
makes
you.
sense. Yeah. Because there's a lot. Yeah. I guess I know you've talked before about like the dream list singers. It'd be great to get a hold of, but it's just not possible
Yeah,
most
yeah,
of the time. Like Kate
yeah,
Bush and people
yeah.
like that. Um, and also, speaking of the greats, the great singers on the album, one thing I also like is that the backing vocalists and the additional parts, like the townsfolk and so forth, have a lot of really great singers in there too, like Marion Wellman and
Oh yeah,
people like that, Lisette Vandenberg and people like that.
yeah.
How did that come together? Was that a plan from the get go to have like like also the wordless voice that Diane does and things like that? Was that part of the plan from the get go as well?
Not from never. Nothing is a plan from the
Mm.
get-go.
Yeah.
No, it develops as I go along. And at some point, okay, there were villagers. Um, let's ask friends, let's ask people that I mail a lot with, and singers that I appreciate, and singers that maybe would never get a main part on Arion, but this is cool to do it this way. And yeah, that they're all amazing singers, and they're all very good friends, and it's great to they love doing it, they love being part of the album, so it works both ways. For me, it's good because I got like six amazing singers in that track, and for them, it's cool because they get a little bit of attention, for being on an Arion album, and they maybe they enjoyed Arion already, and now they're part of it. So it's very cool when things go two ways. That's I love that.
Yeah, and it has that distinct sound. You've always had like a lot of the great backing vocalists and things throughout the years with Ayreon albums, and I love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I love that harmony sense, the sense of harmony that you have
Cool.
going with
Cool.
that.
Yeah. Well, it was a little bit of a G Square Superstar inspiration, where you got to do you think he will dun, 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 dun. You got all these townspeople just talking. I love that, It's got a big G Square Superstar feel, that part. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can hear it, and it really adds to the scope. It just feels so much bigger when you have
Right.
all those
Right.
voices and the
Yeah.
trade-offs and things. Uh, do you, speaking of the vocal harmonies, do you use music theory as a reference for any of your writing, or is it all by ear? How does that work for you?
I don't have any music theory at all.
Wow.
When I grew up, there was no YouTube and there was no Google, and you just had to try it, go for it. And I didn't want lessons either. I was afraid that if I would take lessons, that someone would teach me things and I would like follow the rules. I didn't want to follow the rules, I want to make my own rules. So I was really afraid to learn things. And on the one side, that's good because you come up with your own style. But on the other side, it takes longer, because I did Arion when I was 35. Maybe if I would have had music theory, I could have done an Arion when I was 25, 10 years earlier. But with hindsight, I'm happy it went that way, because I toured the world for 15 years from the end of the 70s till the beginning of the 90s. And that was fun too, up to a certain point. But yeah, that was fun too. So I'm glad it went slow. I'm glad I didn't never learn anything. And so harmonies, I just try it out, and I like it when they're not perfect. I like it when they touch here and there, and maybe there are seconds here and there that not totally right, but it somehow it works. And I think if I would know what I'm doing, I would maybe avoid those things. And now they're there, and I like that. You hear that in a lot of bands. That their early material is so cool because they're not really sure what they're doing.
Yeah, you can hear those little moments of imperfection, but they add so much
Right,
character.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Queen is a good example. Those first four albums of Queen, it was amazing, man. And there's a lot of weird shit on there,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's a very it lends that unique quality. But do you, when it comes to planning out the harmonies, do you record like a scratch track of yourself singing them to get an idea, or do you record them on other instruments to get an idea of what the melodies will be? How is that arranged?
I sing the guide vocals myself. So at first I sing it. And that's usually how I've always done it. I sing the guide vocals, then I send it to the singers. And I always thought like if they get crappy guide vocals, they, it gives them self-confidence. They're like, oh, I can do better than him. But now I'm to that point where like I want to send them guide vocals that are really good. So what I do now is I first sing the guide vocals myself, then I send them to the singer. In this case, it was Mike Mills. I mean, my hero, who can do everything as a five range octave,
Yeah.
five octave, and he sang the guide vocals. So he sang the guide vocals based on my vocals. So he really raised the bar for the singers. The singers got his guide vocals, and they must have been like, "Oh, you want me to sing better than that?"
It's intimidating for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's Michael Mills. I mean, I first heard him, of course, with On the Theory of Everything, and since then I've become such a huge fan and follower of his work. And of course, because of his presence on "Dumb Piece of Rock," it adds so much to the track, which I already like to begin with. But his vocal arrangement on that he goes for
I
is
know,
totally
I
crazy,
know.
isn't it?
Uh,
Uh,
and I again, I didn't have a song for him, and I swore that he would be on every album from now on. So I had to create a part for him, and like, okay, well, maybe he's a statue.
yeah.
And I remember I called him. I said, "Well, Mike, I want you to be part of this album, so I got a part for you, but I'm not sure if you're gonna like it." And he
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, give it to me. Okay, give it to me. What am I gonna be?" He's always been a computer program, so. And I was like, "Well, you're gonna be a dumb piece of rock." And he said, "Man, I'll play a banana if you like.
Yeah.
If I can be on Ayreon, I play a banana."
Oh, that would be
So,
fantastic.
but yeah, I sent him my guide focus, but the whole middle part where he's layering voices, that's all him. So I really don't even want to guide him there. I just like I want like Beach Boys here, or I want Queen here, and that's all I'm telling him, and he will come up with his own weird stuff.
Oh wow! I mean, looking at some of his own music in Towhider as well. I mean, some of the lyrics he sings, but he has some pretty eccentric, weird characters too. So I'm sure playing a banana would come naturally to him
Yeah,
at this
yeah,
point.
yeah. I don't think he would mind.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but I wanted to also talk just a little bit about the guitar and bass on this album because I really love the production and sound of them. Did you do
Right.
anything different for them this time around, or was it
Yeah.
kind of? Oh, what would you do for them in terms of just
Yeah.
recording process?
Um, well, bass, I this time I just used an amp and a speaker again, and I haven't done that in 10 years, I think. What I've done all the last albums is just a preamp and recorded the bass, and then I added a sub synth who followed the bass, so it got a lot of bottom end and it was very tight sound. But this time, because I wanted this album to be sound very warm and very authentic, I plugged in my Trace Elliot amp and to an actual speaker with mics and stuff like that. Um, and I think it was cool. I think I'm gonna do it. Go back to that, because it has. I don't know. It has some warmth, and still it has that power that I'm looking for. And with guitars in the past, I used to layer six different amps and guitars and stuff like that. But here I was like, this album is not about the guitars. It's about the mostly about the story, the vocals. It's not a guitar album like for instance Star One, Victim of the Modern Age was, or The Source even.
Mhm.
There I really layered guitars, so I recorded first with a Hammond and then with a Bogner and then with a Sans amp, and you got like three guitars there to make it big. And
Wow.
this time it was just plug in the amp, no effects, nothing, to a speaker, and one guitar left, one guitar right, and that's it.
It sounds really
So.
good. I especially love just how, as you say, how warm that bass tone is on this album, and it has, especially on a track like Daniel's Funeral, which has, I feel, almost a little bit of that Black Sabbath kind of, slow, heavy.
Well,
So,
the title for when I didn't have the title yet was Sabbath,
oh yeah.
that one.
Well, it
I
works
really
out.
like, yeah, the Master of Reality feel, Sabbath feel. So yeah, you got that right. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, it's a sound that I know occasionally in your work you'll hear a little bit of that Sabbath influence. Not very often, but sometimes it'll be there. Like, of course, on that track, and then on I think maybe Trauma from the Human Equation. I can hear
Right,
some of
right.
that.
Down, 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 down. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was the first metal album I bought. I think rock albums I were like Zeppelin, Master of Reality of Black Sabbath was the first. Yeah, it was my first metal album. That must have been 71 or something. I was 11, I think. So yeah, that had a big influence on me. He's the best. He's the riff meister.
Oh
There's
yeah.
no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy, iconic album and the riff
Oh
tones. Yeah.
yes. Oh yes.
And for the guitar side of it, you also, it seems like you play a few more solos on the album as well. I mean, of course, you still have some amazing guest solos like Satriani and Marty Friedman, just crazy, amazing names. But there's some more solos from you on this, like on Two Worlds Now One. I think you have two solos on that I really liked. Was that something that you decided to do, and you're like, I'm going to play a few solos more this time myself, or was it like,
No,
what,
no,
why not?
no,
How did that happen?
no. I didn't really decide it, but this is more of a. It's not a metal album. It's not a prog album. It's not a metal album. It's not a complicated album. I mean, if I got complicated parts, I can't play them. Or if I have like parts that need to be flashy, I call Joe.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Satriani, but this has a lot of Floydy parts and a lot of melodic, slow parts, and I can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's I mean Gilmour is my all-time hero, um, and so yeah, that's basically the reason. I think it sounds very arrogant now, but I think I can do that better than others. The not better than Gilmour, but
Yeah.
I think yeah, I'm good at that. So I'd rather do those things myself. But if I have a song like Get Out, that needs like Cathy Snyder, it's like it needs something flashy, and then I'm like, no way, I can't do that. I need someone else to do that.
Yeah, I agree though. I do love the sound you get on those melodic solos. The tone is very rich, and I think that is a little bit of a not a lost art, but it is a style you don't get to hear as much nowadays. So it's fun when it does pop up and you can hear that
Well,
Gilmore
guitar
influence.
players, yeah, guitar players are so amazingly fast and technical nowadays. I mean, I get uh, messages or mails or YouTube clips from a lot of guitar players, and they're all so good. It's incredible how
Yeah,
high the bar is. And maybe yeah, people see that on YouTube and they want to be the same, and the whole lust of playing a few notes is kind of
yeah,
disappearing. Maybe I don't know, which is good for me because
that's true. Um, but yeah, I also wanted to bring up something I'd seen in a recent Q&A you did on Facebook talking a little bit about. It was just mentioned off the cuff that there may potentially be some thoughts towards another Star One record at
yeah,
some point in the future. And Dan Swana was the first guy I had on this interview series 6 years ago.
cool, cool,
Yeah, and it was
cool.
that was a great experience chatting with him. Do you think that if there is another Star One, do you think he'll bring back all the singers and what do you think is the idea
Um,
for that?
I'm thinking of doing it differently this time. I don't know why. Maybe because I always want to do things differently and never want to repeat myself. Because I've been walking around outside and I've been listening to the first two Star One albums, and I'm like, the first one was really well received, sold really well. Victims wasn't so well received, didn't sell so very well. So I wanted to get why that is. I think Victims is like way better. It's
Yeah,
like so good and it sounds so good and the guitar sounds and the riffs, but it's so complicated and it's not catchy.
yeah,
There's not a song that stands out because I know because we wanted to play a Star One song live twice, and twice we came back to the first album and not the second album. So the first album is catchy and simpler and I totally forgot your question. What was the question?
I was just asking about
Oh,
Star
right,
One.
the
Yeah,
singers. Yeah, yeah, the
yeah, the
singers.
singers on Star One.
Um, so yeah, obviously those the first album was Floor, Russell, Dan, and Damien, and then the second album was the same team, but the bonus disc had all kind of other singers. It had
That's
it
true.
had Tony Martin of Black Sabbath, of course, um, and it had great singers on there, and Mike Anderson and did a great job, and Rodney and I was listening, and I loved that bonus CD, and I loved the fact that there were different singers. So I'm thinking of again, I never stick to the plan, but doing the next Star One with different singers, and then maybe like I did with Universal Migrator, like a singer a song. So not four singers in one song, but each singer one song. But then still, I would want to involve, of course, the basic singers that I just mentioned, Floor, Russell, Damien, Dan, um, in there. So that's my plan now. But and I'm hearing so many great metal singers, that I want to work with him, and it may not be able for Ayreon, but so yeah, that's my plan now.
That's true. That you also you talk about like you do hear you seem to keep in touch with the current scene of the metal and the prog singers and then the music and how that's going. So it would make sense you'd want to try out some different combinations of vocalists and stuff.
Right, right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And And then also another project of yours I really enjoyed was the Lost in the New Real album, which just kind of gets back to what I was talking about earlier, like when you were singing on the whole record. Do you think that's
Yes.
something you might try again, or do you think that album kind of summed up what you wanted to do with that sound, or what do you think?
I would love to do another one because that's the album I'm the most proud of.
Oh,
You know, if
cool.
people ask me which album is 100% you, it's that album. And the track "Lost in the New Wheel" is my favorite track that ever that I did. It's just 100% me. The text, the music, everything. So I would love to do another one, but I'm so proud of that album. Every time I hear it, I'm like, can I make a better album?
Hmm.
And I have that with a lot of. I have that with Guilt Machine. I have that with Gentle Storm. I have the feeling that I can't make a better album, and I didn't. Apparently, I didn't make a better album with Star One either. I'm afraid to do all those projects to do another album. But the solo album, you know, it's great, of course, because I can do it all on my own, and I don't need anyone else, and it's it's
Hmm.
great, and it's cheap. You know, I'm a cheap singer, but and I would love to do another solo album. I would just have to find a way to do it, and would have to find a concept and something like that. But yeah, maybe maybe after the Star One, maybe.
Yeah, that would be really cool to hear.